I randomly found myself at a poetry reading in the middle of Otara, of all places. And it was just kind of weird. It was weird that, one, that I'm there, and two, that it was in South Auckland. Like, it was a Fijian brother, Darren Kamali, who was sharing, and he was doing spoken word poetry, which is the type of poetry that I do now. And all that is just performance poetry. It's the type of poetry that demands to be off-page and performed and spoken and given life. So anyway, I'm there, and I just did a quick sort of survey of the audience, and it just blew my mind that there were Palangi people who like, there were these two elderly women who were lesbian. They were probably like in their mid to late 50s. Next to them were these guys with orange high-vis jackets that looked like they just came off the roadworks or something. And there were university students scattered in there. There were just random people, you know, who were cruising around Otara shopping centre at 9 o'clock at night. Those sorts of people were a part of the audience. I realized quite quickly, I was like, hold up, this guy's just saying his testimony. Like, that's all he's doing. He's literally just sharing his testimony. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful, the way he presented it and wrapped it up in poetry, in this creative art form. And what I started to notice was that the audience members, regardless of where they'd come from, their age or their background, they were all going with Darren on this journey. And they were crying, they were laughing, and for that brief moment, they were all together. And it just something clicked in me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like church, but we're not in a church, and we're in the middle of Otara Market, and what's going on? You know, like, it just blew me away. And then the whole sort of verse about the Word was with God, the Word was God, and the Word became flesh. And I was just like, man, imagine if the church kind of got a hold of this medium. Like, I just started thinking the possibilities were kind of endless. That to get this message of hope out to other people, but this, you know, it's like trying to feed vegetables to a kid. You kind of just mash the vegetables amongst all the good stuff, you know, and then you just give it to them. And I kind of felt that's what spoken word was. It was like the yummy thing, and yet the gospel was like the vegetables, the necessity, the thing that makes us healthy. And I kind of, that was kind of what it was. And I just thought, man, if the people of God, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but I quickly began to research into it, and I found that for all cultures, but, you know, since we're talking about Pacifica people specifically, poetry is so a part of our culture. Our sayings, our bits of wisdom, or if you're Māori, our whakatauki, like, all of this sort of stuff is poetry. It comes so natural to us. And I just thought, man, we need to connect with this. We need to discover what our poetic voice is, but also, more importantly, what our message is as a people, as a Pacifica people. So I just became, true to form, I became fascinated with it. I started researching it. I found out that Queen Charlotte used to do these crazy as poetry competitions, like national poetry competitions. I found that Samoans are like incredible poets, you know, and even larger than that, you know, Palangi people, the Irish poets, the English poets, the Welsh poets, like, it's just like poetry is such a part of being human. I mean, even the first two chapters of the Bible is considered poetry. Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, I could go on. You know, I'm just extremely passionate about helping people to discover their voice. You know, what's kind of sad as a Polynesian people is that a lot of the time we deter our younger people from expressing themselves in a creative means. Oh, because it'll never equate to a job. Oh, because it's a waste of time. Do something more meaningful. For me, like the arts and creativity is what helps me to feel more alive. I feel like that's something that God has given me. And when I connect with this, I feel I get a sense of God's fingerprint in there, in art, in creative expression. And I just think that New Zealand, Aotearoa, Polynesia, we have, like I said at the very beginning, I feel like we have something to say to the rest of the world that the world needs to hear. Not because we're like super special, but I feel like God has, God has spoken to us in a particular way. And I feel like it's our job to communicate that with the world as a people.
Dietrich, have you seen any testimonies, or what's the effect that you've had on people sharing your poems?
I've been performing the same 5 or 6 poems for the last 3.5 years, so I know these poems really, really well. But the really special moments as to why I keep performing those same poems have been, things from like, man, I want to take more risks with my life. I want to live life more. I've been too safe. I've been too comfortable. I know that there's more to life. That's comments that I've been getting when I perform in bars. Because I do. I perform in bars. I perform in everywhere and anywhere. I've had fathers come up to me afterwards after a poem called the Youth Worker poem, and they're just in tears. They're like, man, like I need to be a better father. Like I need to love my kids better. One time I performed at my friend's wedding, and the best man came up to me and he said, you know what, after that poem, I got on my phone and I called my wife and I told her how much I love her and how much I'd been taking her for granted. Just the other day, I was at a school down in Paraparaumu, and this young person read this poem, which was pretty much a prayer, which was awesome. After the class, she came up to me and she was like, hey, you were at Festival 1, right? I was like, yeah, I was. And she was like, man, you guys, ever since then, you guys have inspired me so much to keep writing, and I have, and she's like, what, 15? So it's like the medium is communicating something to people that, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, but I just feel like sometimes with us who do go to church and do the conventional sort of church thing, we go into church and the preacher just preaches and just talks to us, tells us a couple of points on, whether it's a theological idea or a disposition on a theological standpoint, or whether it's like a bullet-pointed message on how to make our lives better. Those are all good and awesome, but when you bring art and you put this beautiful message of the gospel and wrap it in this incredible thing of art, the expression and art expression, whether that be poetry or painting or music or whatever, when you do that, it then speaks straight to the most human part of us, our hearts, our souls. It speaks to that. And when you infuse the gospel with that as well, it's just like, boom, the truth resonates. So when I was telling you about the comments I get in bars, it's like, these people don't even go to church. In fact, some of the people that have been in the audience you would never, ever spot them in a church, ever. But the fact that I get the privilege and the honor of going into bars and other spaces that are there and performing and sharing just who God is and what He's done for my life, without necessarily saying it as blatant as that, it connects with something intrinsically deep in them, and they then go, man, I want that. I want to look into that. I want to start searching. I want that. So there's this old adage, this old scripture that says, "Knock and the door open, seek and you will find." And I think that is kind of my whole job at the moment is to an extent is just getting people asking the question, putting it out there, so that they kind of go, man, like there's got to be more. There has to be more than this. And if that's all I get, if then awesome. Like I'm not trying to like get people to pray a prayer with me at the end of it. That's what is it? The Bible talks about one person sows, one person reaps. So that's kind of where I feel I'm at. I wouldn't even say I'm at the sowing part. I feel like I'm the getting the seeds ready and then putting it in the hands of the sower. I don't know.